Hello everybody, Sargon, Destroyer of Worlds here, and welcome back to Cities Skylines. Now, as we get started, we're going to start seeing a few problems here as we follow Kathleen back home. So we go through the roundabout, you're probably going to notice a few things in terms of what you're seeing in terms of the road signals and where people can go. But more importantly, we're going to start seeing a challenge here as Kathleen tries to wind her way home. Yep, wind her way home for sure. As she goes through the neighborhood. And, oh, nice little commercial there. So, she's zigging and zagging through her neighborhood as she looks to get to her home. So this is definitely something we are going to fix. And as well continue to expand the suburban neighborhood. Oh boy, is she ever winding her way home. Not exactly the most direct route, so we're hoping to fix that for her and for others as Kathleen arrives home. So let's get to fixing the number of issues that have developed as, pardon the pun, as I've developed this city. So as we can see, Kathleen lives here. Kathleen Wilson, she's at home. But she had a long winding drive from off the interstate all the way through the neighborhood. Now, she could have come straight over and down, but the game thought this was the fastest route. Now, what you'll also notice is off the roundabout, there were no other ways for her to get to her house besides off this part of the roundabout and going through. So we have an opportunity to help solve that. It's one of the things we're going to be doing today, but as well, we're going to solve a number of other little issues and make sure we have enough city services as we look to expand this area. Now, I do want to get to a couple little annoying things, and actually the very first one is fixing that to make sure this area has water. There we go. But let's focus on traffic. Now, what you'll notice here coming off of the interstate are a few things. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Look how bad this is. But I also want to point out something I've noticed here as well as we swing around. We actually will get some U-turn traffic. I'm not sure whether we'll see anyone come through at the moment. But you'll notice that we go from a 3 to a 2 to a single lane dirt road. Oops, that wasn't what was meant to happen. As well, when I laid this out, obviously this is designed to be a collector, as well as this side of the roundabout as well. So let's start fixing some of these issues here. Now this is an industrial area, so let's start with this. This will be the easiest of the collectors to fix. And let's go find... Let's go find the more industrial aspect. There we go. That's the one I want. We're going to fix that. Now, I have a little side road, which we're going to go to the little move it mod, and we are going to move it. Well, that's right. Pick the picker. Move it. I'm just going to move you back so that we can fix that. Now the other thing we're going to do is we are going to upgrade this. Now there's a little problem here. So we're going to pause the game. We'll fix this little area here, disconnect all this. This will just take a moment as I try to find my highway roads. There we go. So we have that fixed. Now, we still have the same problem. Now, thankfully, this is not the vanilla game. And we have the ability to use Traffic Manager. Because right now, this lane is going to U-turn. This one will also allow a U-turn. But we definitely don't want to allow that. Let's turn ourselves around so we can figure things out. We will have all these lanes go right. Now let's put back the power because the power has not yet jumped that area. So I don't want to unpause the game and be in trouble. So let's unpause the game. Now everybody's going to hit this roundabout. Now the next problem we have here is you'll see this roundabout only has 2 lanes, but it has 3 coming in, 2 going off this way, and 1 going off this way. So once again, let's go take this highway one way and let's fix that. Next thing we'll do before we come back and fix this, we are going to do a little damage here, and we will make this a proper collector all the way through. So that's going to help improve a lot of the traffic as people sort themselves out and businesses rebuild. Oops, sorry about that. Now let's just make sure we have no gaps in the zoning. And we have a little bit to fix. Now we can actually get rid of that. Let's fix that. And we can actually put a little bit of commercial is why we've got the zoning in. Especially since we lost the power jump from the neighborhood from where the power is being delivered. That should resolve itself in a minute. Now let's come back to the roundabout. So one of the things I do want to do is fix a little bit of street naming here. Fix that all the way through. I'm going to come now to the roundabout. Oh, that still hasn't fixed itself. Before we lose everybody in the neighborhood, we'll jump that back over. So we're going to fix the lanes here. Give some dedicated lanes, and this is where once again Traffic Manager comes in. So we can create dedicated turning lanes by just going Control click. There we go, and now that's all set. The next thing we want to do is make sure we got our giveaways. Now, because we've added all the lanes, the roundabout is operating a little more smoothly. But once again, we want to give priorities here, so we're going to do shift click, and you'll notice the fact that anyone coming into the roundabout needs to yield, and everyone who is in the roundabout gets to proceed. Now the other thing we're going to do here too is we're going to make sure if you are in the roundabout, you guys get to keep going all the way through. You don't need to yield, just keep going. We're going to leave pedestrian crossing here for now. We will fix that in the future. But let's get helping poor Kathleen and everyone in her neighborhood get home a little easier. So we're going to start by expanding and adding a collector that is going to come down. I'll come down to there for now. Now the next thing we're going to do is look to add basically some other ways into this neighborhood. I don't want to do one at every block, and I also want to avoid having any junctions very close to the roundabout, and this roundabout will likely have to get bigger, so we'll protect that as well. But I think every couple of blocks here at this point, we are going to permit entry into the neighborhood. So that's done. So that's going to help Kathleen. Now we are going to add a collector somewhere coming across here. We're also going to work on expanding this part of the neighborhood, but we have a few more things to fix, and garbage is one of them. So we're going to come up here and we are going to start by expanding this area just a bit. We're going to come in here and add a little more recycling capacity. I believe that's still leaving us short. Yeah, you can see, oh, we've just jumped over to the green line. I think we'll wait a little bit because I would like to be able to add some of these. Obviously, waste transfer facilities is going to be a while. Don't need the floating garbage collector, but the incineration plant, that is also likely going to take us a bit. But we have some larger recycling centers with more capacity. So we're going to hold off as we work on our budget. But while we're looking at things, let's look at a few other areas, such as crime. So we do have a low crime rate now, but you'll notice here the fact that there's a little bit of an efficiency issue. So let's look to add another police station in this area. Be very close to the collector. Hop off there. And that will help for now. That garbage should resolve itself. Let's look at fire safety. Oh my. Houston, we have a problem. Did I place any? I have one firehouse at the moment. That is not good news. So let's add a fire station. Now, as much as I like having those right next to each other, I don't want them all loading on and off this one road here. So let's look at adding fire safety off of this road here. And let's look to see how that improves coverage in that area. We're also going to add a firehouse here. Now, what I like about this particular location, it's off local roads, which is good, but it's not far from a collector. So if they need to go service other areas, they can. So let's add there. Everybody's kind of happy. Oh, except for this fellow here who emergency services did not get to in time. So we're also going to have a look at that. This is, as we look to expand, we're going to make sure we have all the core services that we need. Now, fire safety remains an issue in this area. Let's look to add, actually before we do that, let's add road there. Oops, and we are at them. Not quite out of money. We're making great money, but as I add these services in, it's using up our budget. So while we wait for more money to arrive, I'll speed things up a bit. But let's work on expanding this suburban area. And you'll notice for now, I'm leaving this area separate. I definitely prefer having more of a buffer from a main road to a neighborhood. I could end up expanding this a little bit more, but I am thinking of making this a bit of a park-like setting, maybe running some additional transit in here, but that's for another episode. But let's get to, as I mentioned, expanding our neighborhood. Now, actually, before we do that, let's do a little more pre-planning. So we have, that person is, that's not good. Makes me think of Hogwarts, where one of the professors died and he just kept on working, and that's apparently what's happening there for the moment until Ghostbusters show up. So we have no high school at the moment. I do want to add that, but I also want to make sure that it is a little bit of a nice area in terms of having parks, tennis courts, basketball courts in the area. So let's see if I have enough for my high school, and I do not at the moment. As we look to get the money, but the high schools basically take up a little bit of an area there. But I want to also ensure we have a spot for a nice big park. Now, don't need a playground by the high school, but I definitely think having a large park in that area would be rather nice. To see if there's a better option for if I go back to my high school days. Yeah, so we will look to place, now where to go? This park with trees. It's got a nice area of effect. So we're going to place that there. But we are going to, as we run the roads down here, we're going to end up changing our grid a bit. At least for this, what's going to be a bit of a community center educational area. So while we're waiting for more money to arrive, we'll expand down, making sure straight roads are good, at least for this part. But most of the neighborhood is not going to be the same block. So what I want to make sure, and we'll just double check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, with an opportunity for a path in the middle. So we're going to do the same thing here. As we find the sweet spot, there we go. We're going to hold off on the road there. As I said, I want to make sure that's a nice community center, and I want to avoid having the need for everyone to cross the street to get where they need to go. So while we're waiting, once again, still for and that's the problem with that view. that road did not connect. There we go. What's nice here too is there's this little commercial area, and I remember being a high school student just a few years ago. It hasn't been that long. You know, being able to walk to a convenience store or the like, and also for the neighborhood here. So let's continue trying to meet some of the residential demand. Now, I'm avoiding also putting a lot of housing by that park area because I also want to do a few other things. Now, actually, some of those few other things, and I can see I made a mistake here because I wasn't paying enough attention. Even though having different parts of the neighborhood are good, I want to make this a very walkable community, especially by this center. And with that in mind, I want to add a path network. Let's turn off all our snapping. Things, and it also would be good if when I was doing this I would be straight. Now, for all that you're wondering, the good news is I'm not a doctor, not a neurosurgeon. I don't need to stay within the lines for my day job, so that is good news. There is no risk of a lawsuit there. But when I was coming back and we look at, pause that. This is a... I can kind of see what happened. We're a little bit off. I'm fine with that. We'll allow a little bit of different development pattern there. As we add... Oops, and I think I told myself, and I already forgot, I want to develop some of this a little differently, including across from that park. We'll come down here and add to there. Now, we have money for the school, so we can start planning a little better, and more importantly, helping with our educational needs. So we're going to put high school there. A lot of happy folks. Now we will have to wait. Oh, maybe not too long. Now, I grew up in an area where we actually had a basketball court and a tennis court not too far from my house. It was actually between two elementary schools, and I remember going to basically what was called Duffer Do. So, great way to have some fun, a little park and all that, soccer fields, which I should probably try to find some assets to put those in. But we will move on at this point. So let's come back. Now, you'll notice I can't put the road there, and I'm fine with that. So we're actually going to make this a nice little park area. So we're going to continue with our development. Try to find where that's where it needs to be. As we finish off our gridded area. starting to have some power issues as well. So I don't necessarily want to focus on that. So let's check our budget. Yeah, we can just crank the budget up while it tries to take care of that particular problem. Now, we'll notice the fact that we do have a dead person waiting to be picked up from school. Hopefully it was not a student. So let's get to why I left some of this space open. So you notice we have the elementary school, a park, but what we don't have is a lot of other services, and that's, and we need money. Money makes the world go round. So while we are waiting, we'll spend money, why not? So we are going to add a medical clinic. Make everybody in the area happy while we wait for our tax base to resolve itself. So while we're waiting, I'm quickly just going to speed things up, and I'm going to add some paths. I'll be back in a second. Okay, so let's slow things down, not to stop, let's slow things down as we look to add some more things. We're going to start off by adding childcare. Now what I like about this spot here for the childcare, even though we're going to lose this path, which is unfortunate, is this childcare is right across from this park, which is right across from the elementary school. Now we need to add in a cemetery. Now I am going to keep that in this general area. In fact, we're going to add it up here. And the reason for that is, as we've expanded, in my view, the cemetery would have been close to the initial development, or not too far away from it. So we're going to start by having that there. And that should begin to take care of that poor individual who has since passed away, and hopefully make a lot of people less cringe at the school. Now we do have to wait for elder care. Once again, that's a money issue. But just to give you an idea of what we're going to have to look at doing is where to place that. And I'm thinking actually I'm going to put it here by this park area and whatnot. And we're probably not going to develop too much of this, but I think that's going to be a good spot. So with that in mind, what I can now start to do is add a few other little parks in the neighborhood to make sure everybody's well served and very happy. And I want to find the dog park. So we are going to put the dog park over here. And we're going to add another dog park in this area over here. And before we start doing more development, we're going to come back. And actually just add back. Where's our dog park? Where do we put it? Oh, you know what? I know why I'm having a problem. I'm not using the right tool. I want to be adding Parks Pass, so I'm going to have to go back and see what I just did over there. Well, let's come back over to this side. What did I add? Okay, that is a path. I just grabbed the wrong tool. So now with that in mind, we can finish adding all the residential that we need for this area. Start dealing with all that demand and making a lot of people very happy. Actually, we are going to do is add one more school, one more elementary school. And we are going to do it in this area here. Sorry about that, folks. You start to build and the city comes in and forces you to tear it all down again. And the reason why we're going to have to wait is, once again, money, money, money. So what we have, while all that is, we can speed things up. While all that's occurring, we can also begin to look at putting our collector over here. So I don't exactly have a spot picked out. Oh, let's make sure all our snap twos. I'm gonna come down. So we still want to add a little more. Make sure that is straight. We will, as we did up above, some of these roads will connect to the collector, but not all. We'll still keep up the same grid. We just need to figure things out. Actually, we're going to leave some of that because I do want to put some of the larger parks, or at least give myself the option without using a lot of eminent domain. And the other thing is I do have an asset for a sports complex, which I think would be good here from a nice community aspect, but we're going to leave that to develop, and we'll quickly add in as we begin to tear down homes already built. And let's add the water pipes in, because once again, water is life. We're just going to let things sim here for a few moments as we wait for all this residential to be built up. Oh, actually, we don't need to wait, because as things have been speeding along, we're going to be able to add our school. Now we have the dog park there. We're we're going to add the school right next to it. And in this case, we're also going to add another little park, but this time it's going to be just the small playground. Unfortunately, we're losing some of the park path, but that's all right. And there we go. So we will just check in to see whether, if I can find it again, but find the asset that had a nice, no, we're not doing the park maintenance building. So give me a second. Let me go find the sports complex I found earlier, and I'll be right back. Okay, so change of plans because that sports stadium is $120,000 and I don't have the money. So we're going to continue to build out this neighborhood, obviously without it. Now I am going to place this elder care facility here. That changes and removes a park path, but we will add it back in. So the last thing is we will see what other little small parks that we can add in. As I mentioned, I really want this area to be a nice area for people to enjoy themselves. Okay, so we're going to add just a few trees in here and get the game running to kind of make this a bit more of a, well, it is a park-like setting. We are just going to add some more in. It's also a great reminder as to not develop that area. I think that's pretty nice. Let's add some here by the elder facility. Leave that kind of open. And I might even look to add another park. Now, I was thinking of that sports complex, but I think that is something for another area. Now, what you'll notice here, we've had a really great improvement of our traffic. Although it does look like, speaking of traffic, get rid of that little pop-up. We have a set of lights, and we do not want lights here. We want to prioritize the movement through this area. And that's the same thing here. We're going to make sure that this road is priority. Now I am going to allow the traffic to come through here. Most of that traffic is going to go this way. Now while we're up here, it does remind me we never did add the fire station up to this area. Now this is going to be one of the most favored fire stations in the area, because look at the view that these guys will have when they come out right along the water. Now this in theory would also potentially be a fire rescue or a marine rescue fire station, because it's also very close to the water. So we'll look to wrap things up shortly, but let's have a look at where we stand. Good with electricity, water's on the edge. Our garbage situation has deteriorated again. And I'm a little loathed until we get some better waste processing to continue to add recycling centers, especially in this area. So we're going to have to begin to think about where else should we be building some industrial space. Now this is all open. I'm not convinced this will be a big industrial area, even though we have a lot of demand. Most folks are happy, except the commercial folks, so we'll have to look into that later. Healthcare is good. Death care is good. Child care is good. And elder care is improving, and it's something we're going to have to look at adding more of. And so perhaps this is what we use some of this space for. Look at the noise. Obviously this makes sense. We've got an industrial area, a bit of a commercial zone, and some dotted commercial. That's funny. We're seeing a little bit of electricity issue. So this is something we'll have to look at for next time. Electrical demand is going up and down a little bit, or at least our production capability. Crime is manageable, although we're going to have to begin looking at expanding our police services as we move out of this area. Population is doing pretty good, but we've got 6% unemployment, and as you can see, we have a lot of commercial and industrial demand that can take care of that. Although we do have a number of jobs available. And as we look at some of this, land value, this makes sense, especially in this area, and I expect this area to continually improve as time goes on because of all the park area, great education, and elder care that's available. As you can see, as we go through, the area is getting more and more valuable. And actually, we have one district. Let's add a few while we are thinking about this. So this area is a commercial district, so we will put that here. This is an industrial area. And let's fix all that. Just some general industrial. So we can, in the future, begin to look at what policies we may or may not want to apply. And we're also going to basically split this area up with the new area. Now, I don't have the exact spot. I could go back and look, but we're going to make a distinction actually with this road here. I do know that existed. So we're going to make this area one district. Oh, and congratulations, busy town. So we now have the ability to do city planning policies, tourism specialization, whole access to some great policies, some new roads, all the things we can look at next time. Let's see what else do we get. Ooh, and we got some nice things. We got access to hospital, fire stations, tropical garden, oil power plant. That will be very handy, I think, for our electrical needs. And some whole bunch of other areas or other assets and things to do, like fishing tours, marina, a riding stable, pumping service, trolleys, and sightseeing, and a whole bunch of other great things that we can add. So let's close that. Say, let's begin to add, and we can worry about the exact lines later in terms of which side of the street belongs with which district. But we will expand that all the way out. Now, we'll have to figure out what we also want to do here. And the reason why, this is an area of self-sufficient buildings. And that's probably going to continue up to a certain point. But nothing we need to make a decision on right now. So as you can see here, Got a number of districts, and we've got 2 pearl districts. Let's fix that, and we'll just call this the Industrial District for now. A very original name. Surprised the game created that so close. So if you recall, when we started today's episode, came in off the interchange. Poor Kathleen had to zigzag all her way through here to now the fact that she and others will have some more options. And speaking of options, let's just continue our current pattern of every couple of blocks giving folks that same option. So there we go. So now we have a collector coming down here to another collector with great access into the neighborhood, but there is nothing loading onto the collector in that area, which I do like. Now obviously up here we have our little commercial district, which is fine, and we'll figure out what else we do in the future. So before we wrap things up, I think we've got something very important to do, and that is name this new city. Now, as you can see here, it's currently called Springfield. And to my knowledge, there is no Homer and Marge Simpson living in this area. So we are going to name this after something that is near and dear to me. I believe I mentioned that I grew up and live in the Ottawa area here in Canada, which is Canada's capital. But prior to Ottawa being known as Ottawa, this was a sleepy lumber town known as Bytown. And I think it's only appropriate that the very first city that I share here on YouTube with you is to name this Bytown. So we have a lot of work to do here, but it's going all in the right direction. Population is growing, money is coming in. The city attractiveness needs to be improved upon. We have a lot of demand to meet. So with that, let's have a look at Bytown as it stands. Now we still have the dirt roads, but we'll look to replace those soon enough. But we have a nice community developing. As we noted earlier, right along the river, we have this nice district of self-sufficient homes, which look really nice up against the water. You can see in the background, that's where the highway access is, with their little commercial district, with a little bit of commercial smattered throughout this neighborhood, which actually looks quite nice. We've got some great education, a little cemetery there in the middle, and along with a nice little, actually it's not little, a nice educational community complex where we have access to a high school, a tennis court, basketball court, elder care, a number of parks, this great new road access off of a collector. A lot of great things occurring. Now you'll actually notice in the background one thing we're missing is we have no train access. That is well into the future to solve. But for now, let's have a look at Bytown. And until next time, thank you everyone for watching. Have a good day.